believe happens when we die after all of your research and experiencing?
Okay, well, it's real easy.
Did you say it's easy?
That's easy, yeah.
I love
That's,
that.
that's
I love
easy.
it.
Well, sometimes when I explain this, people ask me, well, how do you know? How do you think you know? Why do you think you know this? Well, I have, Bob taught me, and it turns out much earlier, even when I was a young child, I did out of body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got serious about it after I already was, a graduate student in physics working on my PhD. That's what I was doing when I first met Bob. And in any case, I studied how things worked. I learned how to go out of body on demand whenever I want to do the things I wanted to do. So some of the things I did was go with somebody who's dying and just go with them and see what happens. Watch them, hang with them, just like dentists. We were to stick together. Well, you just stick together and you can follow that person and you can observe what happens. Also, I was given a job to work in what I call the transition reality, which is where after you die, you end up in another virtual reality. Not this virtual reality, but a different virtual reality. And that's what I call the transition reality. And basically, that gets you prepared to transition from the last avatar into the process of getting another avatar. So that's kind of the transition. And I worked there, I don't know, probably every night for a month or two. It's just as soon as I close my eyes and, exit, gone, go to work. And I'd spend the night there in that reality. And I did that day after day after day. So then I saw it from the other side as the people entered this transition reality. And, I can go back into my own memory and look at my own transitions. That history is all recorded. So I can go back and look at the transitions between lives. So I've looked at it from different perspectives, which is where my information comes from. Most everything I say is first person knowledge, firsthand knowledge, not out of theory, but just out of my own experience. And I could never have come to the results and conclusions I did if I wasn't able to go out of body on demand and do it over and over and over again precisely. Because if I have some sort of an effect, okay, so I remote view, now I can go out of body again, but do something, just take a variable, any variable, and change it a little bit. How does that affect the result? Well, change the variable a little more. So you can change variables one at a time until you eventually build up an understanding of what affects what. And, how does it work? So it's just like science is done anywhere. Yes. You just have to be able, it's slow, it's repetitive. You have to repeat things because anything may have just been circumstantial the way it happens. So you have to repeat it. The repetition, has to give you consistent answers. You have to vary one variable at a time. Same way science is done everywhere. And that's how I figured it out. So let me go through the process. First of all, I'll have to tell you who we are. We are individuated units of consciousness, okay? And we log on to a virtual reality. And the way we do that is that we take what would be the thing? We make a partition of ourselves, okay? We're consciousness. Consciousness is an information system. Consciousness is about awareness with a choice. That's all about information. So here we are, this individuated unit of consciousness. We partition a piece of ourselves off, and that partition, we don't give it all our memory. We don't give it any of our memory, but we do let it have our quality of consciousness that we have earned, that we have evolved to at that time.
Wow.
So this little piece of us, which is nothing but our quality of consciousness, our potential, if you will, for evolution, because every time you evolve, it's a little easier to evolve more. If you devolve, it's a little harder to evolve. It's that sort of thing. So you take this partitioned off piece of you. I call that a free will awareness unit. That's actually what logs on to the avatar. Now, the avatar at this point is, a baby, maybe still in utero, maybe not. It's whenever the free will awareness unit would like to start experiencing those experiences. Well, when it does, those experiences the free will awareness unit has are its only experiences, because it didn't come with any of its own. So it very quickly believes that it is that infant, it is that person, because its only experience is being that person. You see, so it's completely 100% in its mind, that's who it is. You think you are your body. You think you are your avatar, because that all your experience is the experience of that avatar. All right, so the avatar grows old and dies. When that avatar dies, then the boundary between the IUOC, individual unit of consciousness, and the free will awareness unit starts to come down. That partition starts to come down. And that free will awareness unit basically just goes away, disappears, because the partition's taken down. Now it's the individuated units of consciousness. Now that doesn't happen in an instant. Things happen over little bits of time. That's why you need a transition reality. So things aren't, wham, happen. That's not very good. Transition. It needs to take a little time. So immediately what happens when you die is that you find yourself aware in some other reality. And then that awareness kind of looks around and like, where am I? What's going on? And very soon, something will catch your attention. It might be the light at the end of the tunnel. It might be Uncle Fred has come down and say, oh, hi there, nephew. I came here to say hello. Uncle Fred's maybe been dead for a decade or two, or your parents or your older brother or whoever. So these things are things given to you by the system. It's not necessarily actually your Uncle Fred. Uncle Fred's dead. He's gone. This is Uncle Fred as saved in the database. This is Uncle Fred, you might say, being played by the larger consciousness system. And you think, oh, that's a fake Uncle Fred. Well, what is Uncle Fred? It was a piece of the larger consciousness system. We're all played by the system. If you want to think of it that way, that's what an IUOC is.
Would you say that system
that
is...
larger consciousness system? Many people say that's God. But when you say that's God, you also have to realize it's not infinite. It's not perfect. It's not done. It wasn't always just the way it is. It's still evolving. It's growing. So it's a real thing. It's a real living being thing. You see, it's not this supernatural thing. It's a natural thing. It's a piece of consciousness that is evolving. Okay, so anyway, so that partition comes down, which means the viewpoint of that free will awareness unit starts to change. It gets to be a bigger viewpoint, slowly. But here's the process. So immediately you find yourself in some other reality frame. Then the system, basically puts you in that reality frame for making the transition. And the transition is something to just give you time to adjust. That's all. If you don't need much time to adjust, it's a very quick transition. If you need a lot more time to adjust, that'll take as much time as you need it. So the reality that you just left, that the character that just died, those memories start to fade, just like dreams fade.
Wow.
So, you wake up with a dream, and right the instant you wake up, wow, it's big, 3D, Technicolor. And a minute later, not so much. And 3 or 4 hours later, you can kind of pick the stronger pieces out, and eventually it just kind of goes away. So that's the way your sense of reality is. It starts to fade like a dream. And then people come and meet you. You're distracted. Oh, go stand over there in line. You're going to matriculate in and see that lady. She'll know what you're supposed to do next. Well, there isn't anything really you're supposed to do next. That's just to give you something to do that's non-threatening, that lets you just relax and let go.
My very young first husband, passed away of colon cancer at age 35. And about 2 days before his passing, he was talking to me and lying down in bed in hospital. And he said to me, I can see people in this room that are both dead and alive. I know here's our friends who are alive, but I can also see people who are dead. And my husband was an atheist. So for him to see just 48 hours before he transitioned into the new reality, this experience. So can this consciousness avatar bleed in, I guess, to this reality to take the person through it even before they die?
It's not so much that there's something, other beings that are bleeding in to take the person. We kind of make that up because it sounds like a good story.
Yes.
But the system is giving them this viewpoint. They are seeing their data stream. Their data stream contains dead people now. And that's starting to relax them, to let this process of dying go. So they're not so fearful as they enter the process. So yes, the system will give them help to make the transition. And not everybody will see dead people before they die, but a person who is open to that will. Okay, so that happened. All right, so let's finish the process. So you begin to forget your reality. It just begins to fade out like a dream. And then you meet Uncle Fred, and then Uncle Fred says hello and whatever. Oh, but Uncle Fred has to go. He never hangs around too long, just enough to get you an introduction and just enough to point out where to go. And then you go over there and you get in that line and you start to relax. And eventually you get to the point that you think, well, gee, I'm kind of just standing around. Nothing's going on. What's next? And you get the idea, well, another experience, another lifetime is next. What would you like to do? What do you need to work on? And depending on how you answer that question, if you say, oh, well, I thought I was done. I think I'm almost perfect just the way I am. Well, if that's the way you feel, then you probably will get a life review, which will show you flying off the handle, you being self-centered, you being arrogant, and so on, so that you can understand more of what it is you need to learn. But if you answer that question of, well, anger management's been my downfall the last 3 times, and I know I didn't do so well this time either, so I really need something that's going to help me work on that, then you probably don't get the life review because you already kind of have a sense of where you're going and what you need to do. Then the system will pick a spot for you. You don't know enough. You don't have enough information to really pick a spot yourself. The system has the big picture, and it picks out a spot where the probability is that you can succeed. It looks like it's not too hard, not too easy. Too easy, you don't learn much. Too hard, it's difficult to succeed. So they try to find something that will kind of work, and you get to agree to it. If you can say, all right, I'll take that, and then off you go. Now, what happens is your individuated unit of consciousness makes another petition, another free will awareness unit, only quality, not memory, and it logs on to wherever the system tells you to log on to. And now you have another lifetime. So that's kind of the process that happens. All right. So
is it like simulation theory, or is it the soul, which is more of a, I guess, is that the human translation of what this process you just described, that we need something more meaningful than that? So let's say when our loved one leaves this reality and goes off and forgets about this reality, do you believe that we find our way to that consciousness again and again and again? Do you believe that we do? And thousands of people are going to listen to this conversation, and a lot of the community that is the community that this goes to are many people who not only want to believe that we continue on with this whatever version, but that they're trying to find the meaning behind this experience, and can we meet them again? And I know I'm asking from a human Christina this question, and I understand I'm asking from this avatar. I'm asking from this physical experience, because when I have my journeys, when I go to have all these other experience, I have access to everyone I've loved. I have access to the place outside of time. I can go and do and be anything. So the question I'm asking, I understand it comes from this reality, this physical reality that we are experiencing through our avatars. Um, so to answer it with that in mind, do we ever meet again?
Okay. It is possible that we meet again because sometimes individuals are just good bringing out the best in each other.
Yeah.
You know? So sometimes people will incarnate, I call it having another experience packet, but they'll incarnate with somebody that they've incarnated with before, just because those two people help each other grow, you know, or three people, you know, so that's possible. That's in the margins. It doesn't happen that often.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often. Now, here's the way it works. Remember that future probability database that the system needed because it needed the probability of all the possibilities? Well, that database that gives everything that could possibly happen and the probability that it will, that's I call future probability database. When time goes by, what was in the future now becomes past. So we also have a past database that's everything that could have happened and the probability that it would have. And with a little thread going through that, which is actually our own history, the choices that we made, what we actualized of all those possibilities. Okay, now that database is very complete of us. There's somebody in that database that is you, Christina, because of all the things you've done. But it's not just what you look like at what age. It's every thought you've ever had, every feeling you've ever had, not only everything you've done, but everything you've thought about doing, but didn't do. It's everything, all the feelings, all the attitudes, all the experience, all the thoughts, even all the dreams, all the nightmares, all the good dreams, everything you've experienced is there, okay? And it's saved in this database. And so it is for everyone. So that is a record of who we are. And the reason that history is valuable and the system wants to save it is the same reason history is always valuable. You can learn from it. So here you are, an IUOC, an individuated unit of consciousness, and you do have memory in that form of all the past lives, and you can look across all of them and find trends and find, things that you consistently fail at and things that you consistently succeed at. And it helps you plan and helps you grow because you have the history to work with. So we have this database. So a person who's going through this cycle I just described, they die, they kind of forget, they get back into the game, and they die and they forget, they get back into the game. They're just going round through this process. Now, anytime that you would like to meet up with someone who's died, who's a loved one of yours, well, all you do is have that intention in your mind, and there they are.
There they
you
are.
See, you put yourself in this intuitive space. It's again, you have to get an intuitive space, you have to unclutter the mind, you have to have some oomph behind it to make it happen. And there they are. It's just a matter of having an intent. And you can communicate with them, you can talk with them, you can share with them. And what you're doing is really sharing with that person as they were in that lifetime. It's that same person. It's not who they became next or next after that. It's that individual person. Well, that individual person doesn't really exist with a free will anymore because that character died, that avatar died. But that person does exist in every way that you can think of what existence means in this database, except they don't have free will. They're just information, but all their feelings, all their emotions, and you can go in and interact with that database, and it is exactly like interacting with that person. It is that person, actually. Okay, and if you think, well, gee, that's just a fake. Well, no, think of it this way. We are subsets of the larger system. And what are we? Well, we're also information systems. We're also information and data. So the only difference between me now and me in the database is the me here makes free will choices. The me there is everything I've ever been, thought of, done, didn't do, whatever. It's there. Now, you can go to, say, Uncle Fred, he's dead, and you can talk to Uncle Fred, and Uncle Fred may something like, oh, I thought it was a really good idea that you bought, Susie a bicycle last week. And you're thinking, oh, how does Uncle Fred know that I bought Susie a bicycle last week? Well, it's just like him to say something. It's just like him to approve of it. But how did he know that? You say, well, that's not in his database. But what's happened there is you're now asking questions or having interactions that do require free will. Those require updates. And the larger consciousness system is basically playing Uncle Fred, constrained by Uncle Fred's database. So he only plays him as Uncle Fred. And you say, well, that's kind of odd, but look, who am I? Who are you? The larger conscious system is really playing Tom Campbell and Christina Rasmussen right now, right? So, is this, you see Uncle Fred or not? Well, of course, it's the larger conscious system playing Uncle Fred just exactly the way Uncle Fred would with all of his experiences. So that Uncle Fred can last forever. 1,000 years from now, that Uncle Fred will still be there.